How to choose a heat pump hot water unit. So you've decided that you want to look at heat pump hot water, and now it's time to make a choice. How do I choose a unit? It can be quite confusing. So this video is here to help. We're going to set out 4 factors in our framework that we think you should consider for each heat pump hot water unit. The 4 factors are cost, reliability, the refrigerant, and maintenance. And I'm going to go through each one. And at the end of this video, I've got a spreadsheet which covers all the units on the market, and we can apply those 4 factors to look at which are maybe the better units on the market and which ones to avoid. Before we start though, I should mention that Powerhouse is independent. So we're not aligned with any manufacturers or any groups. Our research is just done objectively. There's no biases here. It's just basically my opinion on the factors that we look at. So let's jump in. The first factor to consider is cost, and that's pretty easy to analyze. All else being equal, lower is better. Now, I like to think of the heat pump hot water market as having 3 tiers. If you start at the top, the premium end of the market, you've got reclaims and stand-ins. You might pay $4, $5, $6, or even $7,000 for those units, depending on which unit you select and if you're eligible for rebates. In the mid-tier, we have most of the action, as with most markets, your Aquatex, iStores, Stiebel Eltrons, Thermans, and you might pay, say, $1,500 to $3,500 for those units. The last tier is your cheap and nasty tier, which we don't deal in because we don't think, generally they don't tick the box of the reliability, which is really important. But having said that, being, I guess, balanced and fair, if that's all you can afford, I'd still prefer to see people get a heat pump hot water unit than another gas unit and be signed up to gas for another 15 years. But the key message here is you can get a good quality, reliable unit for $1,500, $2,000, again, subject to rebates. But you don't need to pay $9,000 for a heat pump hot water unit, which is something that I do hear in the market from time to time. Second factor is reliability. So this is really important because we want these units to last. And for me, I spend a lot of my time encouraging people to get off gas. It's obviously a fossil fuel and it's very expensive, and it's only going to get more and more expensive. So the way I approach heat pump hot water is the units need to last longer than gas units, or close to. They're cheaper to run, that's no question on that, that's very clear. But there's no point getting a heat pump hot water unit if it's going to last only 5 years when your gas equivalent's going to last 15. You're going to be replacing it 3 times as often. So let's get a good quality, reliable unit that's going to last and stand the test of time. All easy to say, but how do you work out what's reliable? How do you work out whether your unit is going to serve you well? And there's a couple of things that I look at here. So the first is reviews. It's all well and good to accept my opinion or your mother-in-law's opinion, but the thing I like about reviews is it's that wisdom of the crowds. They're not perfect, but if you've got a unit that's been reviewed, say on Product Review, and it's got 400 or 500 reviews, I think that's a pretty good cross-section to go, okay, this unit's working or it's not. Equally, if it's really poorly reviewed, there's probably good reason for that. So I think reviews are really helpful. The other thing that I look at is warranty. I like to think of the warranty as the manufacturer's confidence in their own unit. If a warranty is only a couple of years, then it suggests that the manufacturer doesn't have a lot of confidence and it's not going to stand by its product. If the warranty is 10 years, I think that's a great sign of confidence from the manufacturer. So not all warranties are created equal. We have to look at the warranty for the components and labor, but a better warranty, I think, is a good sign of reliability. The third factor that we're going to look at is your refrigerant. And your refrigerant is the medium that does a lot of the hard work in transferring heat from the air to the water, heating up water in a heat pump hot water unit. One of the things that I like to stress with refrigerants is its global warming potential. So basically, if you use a refrigerant and a kilogram of that escapes into the atmosphere, what is the global warming potential compared to 1 kilogram of carbon dioxide being released? Carbon dioxide obviously is 1. Propane is another refrigerant that's commonly used on the market that has a global warming potential of 3. Pleasingly, we used to have a lot of units on the market with global warming potentials of 1,400 or 2,000, but these units are no longer eligible for rebates. They're also being phased out by the federal government, and effectively aligns with what I'm suggesting, which is we don't want to be dealing in these units. So now the units are only eligible for rebates if they have a global warming potential of less than 700. There is one unit on the market that has a global warming, that uses a refrigerant that has a global warming potential of 675. That's still a bit too high. And a key message here is we don't need to trade off. We can get good quality units that use propane that are affordable. And if the units do leak, if the refrigerant does get out, it's not going to have a terrible effect on the environment. Last factor is maintenance. So we buy a unit, how do I have to maintain it? If all else being equal, if we're looking at two units and they're exactly the same, of course I'm going to go for a unit that's easier to maintain than a unit that's going to place, or the manufacturer is going to place onerous requirements on me to meet the warranty conditions and maintain that unit. So there is a bit of difference here, and I've read every owner's manual on the market, and some require a licensed tradesperson to come out every 6 months to service the unit. Now, I'm not sure if there are mistakes in the owner's manual, but by the letter of the law of what they're saying, you need a qualified tradesperson to come out every 6 months to open a PTR valve. Pressure and temperature release valve, it's super easy. All you got to do is this. Water comes out down the drain, and that is required every 6 months. But the better units on the market, they say you can do that. And obviously that makes sense. You don't need someone that's gone to trade school for 3 years to be able to do that for you. So the general standard there is a 6 monthly service by the individual or the owner, and then a major service every 5 years. But do have a look, because if you don't meet those warranty conditions and something goes wrong, you go back to the manufacturer and you haven't had it serviced every 6 months by a tradesperson, well then you might find that the manufacturer is not going to honour that warranty. So and I think it's just common sense, right? Let's choose a unit that has low maintenance requirements and is easy to service. Right, so here we have my spreadsheet that I mentioned earlier that has every unit on the heat pump hot water market. And I want to go through these 4 factors that we talked about. So the first over here is cost. That's the recommended retail price. You can see the reclaim here that I talked about. That's the 315 litre glass lined, around about $6,000. Aquatech, around about $2,000 to $3,000. Therman, quite expensive. Ecogenica, a bit cheaper. You can see the general range is $2,000 to $6,000. One really important point to note on that is that the recommended retail price is not the price that you will pay. When you pay for the installation, you get the rebates off that. So the actual cost to use, supplied and installed is generally less than the recommended retail price. The second factor we talked about is reliability, and we talked about reviews. So Hire gets 4.9, only from 16 reviews. So that's a newer unit on the market. The Reclaim 4.8, Therman 2.9. So for me, from 15 reviews, it's not a huge amount of reviews, but the way I think about that is that if there's a lot of people out there that have not had a good experience with that unit, are you more or less likely to have a good experience with that unit? So I think that's a pretty easy one to avoid. Aquatech gets 4.7. What's this 2? Quantum, yeah, that is the worst reviewed unit on the market. So 2 from 74 reviews. I think that's pretty clear. Let's avoid that. The third factor we talked about is the refrigerant, and that is standardizing, as I said, because the old R134As are being removed and phased out. But you can see propane is very common. Carbon dioxide is used by your Reclaim and Sandon. We do have a few R134As still, but I expect that they'll change over time. A great example of that is iStore. So iStore's traditional unit was R134A, but they now have a propane unit based in Victoria, especially because the old unit is not eligible for rebates and it's just not competitive. The fourth factor we talk about is maintenance. So here I've got a summary of all the maintenance requirements from all that reading of those owners' manuals. And you can see here, generally 6 months, 5 years. 6 months, 3 years for Apricus, there you go. 6 months, check PTR valve. That's what I talked about before. It's super easy. Anybody can do that. 5 years, that's generally by the qualified tradesperson. An example is Emerald. So Emerald in their unit, 6 months, trade person, operate the PTR valve. For me, that's just absurd. I'm sure Emerald will change this over time, but for now, let's just avoid that unit because it's too onerous and it just doesn't make any sense. So let's apply all that, and where do we think are the best value units on the market? And for me, it's Aquatech. So Aquatech have 2 units on the market. They've got a 210 and 270 litre unit. The 210 is the Rapid X6. The 270 is a Dynamic X8. It's glass lined, the tank material. The tank protection is an impressed current anode, which is actually really good because that means that, again, less maintenance. It does have a backup sacrificial anode, but for those units that only have the sacrificial anode, there's a bit more maintenance because those sacrificial anodes degrade over time, so you need to flush it out and you need to check them more regularly and replace them. Well-reviewed units, the Aquatex 4.7 from a multitude of reviews. To be fair, the warranty I think could be better. The heat pump and parts is 5 years, labour is 2 years. So that labour component is too low for me. I would prefer that to see that a bit higher. But what that means is that if in year 3 your unit breaks down, if the unit breaks down, then Aquatech will pay for the new unit or replacement component, but you, the owner, actually need to pay for the labour involved in switching that out. So that could be transport, plumber coming out, fixing it all up, and we know that plumbers aren't cheap, so that can be quite expensive. So hopefully that'll improve over time, but that's probably the only downside of the Aquatech units. One thing I really like about them though is company was founded in 2011 and the unit is, the Dynamic X8, used to be called the Hydrotherm, has been in the market since 2011. So that's a really strong track record, and it also tells me that the company's strong, it's going to be around for a long time to come to honour any warranty claims. Uses propane with a low global warming potential, low noise of 43 decibels, and the price is affordable. And that's what I really like about these units. You don't have to spend $5,000 on a good quality heat pump hot water unit. Again, our installation price is much lower than those, anywhere from $1,400 to $2,000, again, depending on rebates. But they're affordable units which are going to be much cheaper to run than gas. The payback period is not going to be too long. You're going to be better off in not too long a period of time. And maintenance is not onerous at all. 6 months owner, 5 years major service from a plumber, and that's certainly reasonable and in line with the better quality units on the market. So there you have it, the framework of how to choose a heat pump hot water unit. Again, those 4 factors are cost, reliability, refrigerant, and maintenance. I think that's a really easy to apply framework to help you in choosing which heat pump hot water unit to install. As I said, the key is we want to get something that stands the test of time. It's going to be much cheaper to run than gas equivalents. It's hopefully going to be on a par with installation cost, and you're going to have lower energy bills. If you're based in Victoria and you would like a quote on a heat pump hot water unit, I'd love to hear from you and love to be able to help you out. Our pricing is affordable. We keep our margins sharp, and we also have an initiative where for every 10 heat pump hot water units we sell, we actually donate one to those in needs. A little action that we're taking to help address the problem, one of the problems with electrification, which is that upfront cost. Not everyone can afford the cost of a new unit. They are going to be much cheaper to run, but not everyone can afford it. So we are going to make some donations and help people out. But yeah, again, my name's Tim from Powerhouse. We hope you found this video informative and helpful, and best of luck with your new heat pump hot water unit.